Hey everybody, and welcome back to Gay 2K. Today I am hanging out with my friend Sheridan Gillam, author of the Water Dragons Paladin. Wow, I almost biffed that really bad. But I got it out. Yeah, we're just going to talk about fantasy and things that inspired us to get to where we are today. And yeah, Sheridan, you want to say anything?
Thank you so much for having me, and I think you got it perfectly. The title was great, so I'm excited to dig in.
Awesome. When did you come out of the closet? What year specifically?
I actually I don't know which year. I feel like it was a slow progression because I'm from Texas.
Mm,
I graduated high school in 2011, so gay marriage wasn't legalized here when I was even in college.
right.
Um, geez, I don't. Maybe I came out to myself in like 2012.
Okay.
And then, my roommates that I lived with in college, probably found out first. I don't think I came out to my family until I had a girlfriend for close to 2 years when
Mm,
I was out of college. And then, that didn't work out. But, by the time that I met my wife, I was out to my family. So maybe closer to 2016 with, my whole life.
yeah. And that's awesome. I mean, people come out and you don't stop coming out, right? It's not like you come out of the closet and nobody will ever assume you're straight again. Like you have to continue to go through that process. And I mean, for me, I was in high school and I kind of like ripped the band-aid off. I was
Right.
16 in 2003, and I met my friends that I'm actually making this podcast with. And, we were like never saying it until whoever said it first said it. And we argue about like who really came out first. The answer is me. But yeah, but it's not like I came out to my friends then in 2003 and I've never, like I continued to have to come out to family members, had to come out
Right.
to, yeah, everybody in other situations. So when did you decide to become an author?
Um, I don't, again, I don't really know.
Yes,
I've,
perfect.
yeah, I probably, when I was in elementary school, I started writing stories. Well, weirdly enough, I couldn't really read until like the fourth grade. So I kind of thought I was dumb, but I was always thinking of like stories in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I started drawing them first, and then I would write like little snippets about the characters I was drawing. But I was always scared people were going to find them and, realize that like I'm horrible at spelling and things. So I would write it and then throw it away. So my first
Oh,
book, I was probably like 9, and it was about a boy in space who used to build his own like hover cars and race them against like aliens. But
nice.
that's in the trash. I don't, I just remember that was the first one I did. And then I had this like kind of fight club thing I used to write in elementary school where my main character was like a half tiger, half man. And like, so that,
Nice.
yeah, so that, somewhere in the trash. But so I guess my whole life, deciding to actually put it out into the world, not until my very late 20s.
Yeah.
That I didn't finish a project until I was almost 30. A lot of it either
Yeah.
I would start and not finish, or start it and kind of second guess it and get rid of it ever since I was little. So I didn't really see something from start to finish and think about putting it out into the world until I was almost 30.
Yeah, I admire people that can actually like take the idea and bring it not only just onto the page, but then go through the process of restructuring it and
Yeah.
finding what you're really getting out of it and then publishing it. Like I've written some fan fiction back in the
Yeah.
day. That's about as deep as I go into world building.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I do want to talk to you because your book is high fantasy, and
Right.
that involved. I started following you because you would talk about like places in your book that
Yeah.
was coming up, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. I've never really been. I have some friends that write, but I've never really seen that kind of just world building happening as you're like about to publish. So that was really cool. So if
Oh,
you
thank
want to
you. Yeah, that's actually my favorite part. And I would say a struggle for me is a lot of fantasy, especially nowadays, is series based. And so I
Mhm.
love world building so much that I'll write like one book in that world, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start world building a whole nother place. And it's like, no, write a
Yeah.
second one to this one here. I really like to world build. My friend Chaz, he does writing as well. He kind of gave me some advice years and years ago, and he told me, like, especially with fantasy, um, build the world first because it's easier to make characters that fit into a world than a world that fits around characters. And I
I
thought
love
about
that.
that, and I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that is like the best advice ever. And I really, the first thing I always do when I world build is draw a map. I use some software because I'm not great at like hand drawing. I use some software that has like, I mean, you draw the lines and stuff like that, but then they
Mhm.
have like pre-made stamps that I can be like, okay, mountain here, mountain there, right? And
Oh,
so
yeah.
once I start doing that and I like draw a map, then I start thinking about, well, what geography makes sense in that area? Like, is that like, would that be like more of a desert climate? Would that be Arctic? You know, I'm thinking if there's like mountains, like what side would be more of the rainy side? And I think through all of that, and a lot of this will never end up in the book, but I think through like the geography first. And then I start thinking, well, what religions would be built around that? Right. Because thinking about, okay, this is a really sunny area, or this is a really rainy area, or this, you know, this area deals with a lot of drought and things like that. What kind of, you know, deities or religions or things like that would make sense in that area? What kind of people would live there? What would they be like culturally, just based off of kind of, you know, the geography and things like that. And then after I've already built like, you know, a religious system, I've built like the different cultures, what kind of foods grow there, who they trade with. I think about that too, like what different
Mhm.
societies, who would trade with who would have had wars in the past and things like that. Why would they have wars in the past? Like, you know, what cultural differences between these two things would have caused that, or what, you know, monetary things. And I start thinking through languages because it wouldn't make sense for all of them to have the same language, but some who trade
Mhm.
with each other may. And then after I do all that, then I start um building characters and deciding which ones would be main characters based on which ones seem the most interesting to me and where they're from and what kind of stories would come from them.
That's amazing. Thank you for
Oh, thank
breaking
you.
it down. That's so cool. Yeah, I really the closest I've had to that is like D&D campaigns probably and
Yeah.
that kind of world building. Um, yeah, I could definitely for me, I think it would be the reverse of your problem. I think I would just want to live in that world forever. Like once I really built a world that I was like, this is it. I'd be like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna go tell this the history of 100 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah. And I start drawing family trees and things like that too. Like especially for like royal lines and things like that. I'll have
mhm,
like family trees. And then something that'll, you know, literally never end up on the page. I like will end up on a tangent about like someone's great great grandmother who like who started as like, I don't know, like a carpenter or something. And now they're like a
mhm,
part of the royal line and how that happened. And then it's like it's nowhere. It's just for me. And I had to tell myself too, because my editor went, because I like to create creatures. That's one of my favorite things, like
mm,
creatures that would make sense in that area. And I that's something I shared on my page is some really horrible
yes.
drawings I did of my creatures,
Yes.
just like absolute trash. Um, but I had a bunch of those, just like a bunch of them stacked up, and I had to, you know, if they weren't pertinent to the story, I was like, don't put them in there. But it was hard for me not to find a fleeting moment, not to mention every single one of them because I just love them so much. So I have to be like disciplined a little bit in what I include and what I don't because I had to cut some of it out because it was just bogging
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't imagine because you're independently published, like there isn't a whole lot of precedent, right? With you're with Tello Books, right? So
Yes. I
they're
have
like
two with them. So I have Scrooge and Millie Tompkins with them, and I have this one, The Water Dragon's Paladin, is going to be with them. And then I have another book, A Bard and Rogue's Tale, that actually takes place in a different world that I made. That I did that one by myself.
mm, yeah. So like yeah, but with that new like they're starting or like they're newer than in the sense to publishing than you are, right? Because they just started their publishing division. So that's gotta be they're learning a lot as you're learning how they function too. So that's an
Right.
interesting dynamic.
Yeah, we're all
Uh,
learning. They're
mhm.
really nice. That's the good thing. They are really nice and really open with communication, which I appreciate. So, you know, I really I've gotten lucky in the sense that it's nice to work with people that, you know, I can text them or call them if I have a question or I'm, you know, concerned about something or I'm like, hey, what should I do with this? And they're really responsive and have been
Mhm.
um all of us have been learning at the same time, which has been good.
Awesome. So was there ever any pressure when you were thinking of writing about not making it LGBTQ? Were you ever like, oh, this might sell better if I, or was that just completely off the table for you? Were you like, I can't even write worlds where there aren't queer people in them?
I think I just didn't. When I finally was going to be at a point where I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put it out in the world. I just didn't care. I was
Mm.
like, if I also too, I'll say this about myself. I'm somebody who really loves a cult classic. Like I love Sharknado. Like a
Mm.
lot of people are like, "Oh,
Yes.
Sharknado's trash." I'm like, "Well, I think it's beautiful trash. I love Sharknado. All three. It's like I just
That's
watched that
deep.
new one that came out.
Yeah.
It's like called like was it Thrash or Thrasher on Netflix? I don't know. They had
Mm.
a new shark one. I watched that. I was like, "This is brilliant. I love it." I love like Edward Scissorhands and things like that. Like I love a cult classic. I don't know if I would ever how how my brain works. I don't think I would ever maybe necessarily write something that would be like conventionally appealing to all, and that's like okay with me. I don't
Yeah.
need to like I would love to have just like a niche group of people who really like it, then like, try to market to such a broad audience that I'm not authentic to myself. Because I mean, the whole point I'm writing is because I enjoy it. I have a full daytime job. I'm a data analyst,
Mm.
which is like a totally different part of my brain, right? It's like the
Yeah.
math science part of me. It's like very meticulous, very tedious. You can't be off by a comma or it'll, mess up your whole code. But, this is for me because I love it. I write because I love it. I don't write because I mean, I don't write because I anticipate to get like rich off of it, right? I write because it brings
Right.
me joy. And if it stops
Yeah.
bringing me joy, I'll stop doing it. So I'm queer. A lot of the people I surround myself are queer. I'm like a very
Mm-hmm.
socially awkward person. So most of my friends are because I played rugby with them, which there's a lot of straight people who play rugby, but there's also a lot of queer people. So I just write what I know. I write what I love. I write what brings me
Mm.
joy.
Yeah. The it brings me joy, and when it stops, I'll stop doing it. That's exactly the philosophy I have with my podcast. So can
Yeah.
100% relate to that. I love, connecting with people and hearing their stories and sharing their stories with the world. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And you're right, like it is a hobby, right? Essentially, it's a hobby that you're like, it'd be great if it took off and I
Oh
became
yeah. I
like, if I
welcome
could
it. I
sustain
welcome
myself, why
it.
not? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a passionate hobby, and I completely relate to that. So who inspired you? Like as you said, you struggled with reading. So when you were starting to read, who are some of your like favorite authors or favorite? Well, since you struggled with reading, what are some of your favorite stories that were films or TV as a child?
When I was a child, I'd say my favorite books were probably Horrible Harry, which I think I felt like Horrible Harry. It's I was really hyper, like it was the 90s and I was like very ADHD
Mm-hmm.
before they like understood what that was. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't like disrespectful or bad. It was just like, why are you standing? And I was like, I don't know why I'm standing. You tell me why I'm standing. Like, I don't know what I'm
Yes.
doing here. Like, I'm just, and I really liked Horrible Harry books. When I got older, I was really into Star Wars books and the Star Wars universe.
Mm.
And as far as world building goes, man, I really love Star Wars because all the different planets and just talking
Yeah.
about, different planets, different cultures, who trades with who's had wars with who would easily fold into the empire versus who would kind of rebel against that and why.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really was into Star Wars when I was growing up, still am. I still read Star Wars books now. Whenever I see them at half price
Mm-hmm.
books, I buy them. And I also, my dad, me and him were really into playing Warhammer. I don't know if you know what Warhammer
Oh,
is.
yes, I know what Warhammer
Yeah,
is
we
for
were big
sure.
Warhammer players, and
Mm-hmm.
specifically, there was like a subset of Warhammer called Mordheim. I don't know if it still exists. It did back then, where you had a
Yeah.
smaller war band and you played with that same war band, and you had characters, and like you had your main like
Ooh.
five characters, and then you had more like henchmen type things, and you'd go on different. There was different like tasks or quests essentially, and you were
Huh.
trying to beat the other one. So me and my cousin and dad would play that all the time. And in my head, I had background stories for all of them. All my little dudes that I
Love it.
painted. Like I liked playing Skaven, which was like these like rat people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had like backstories for all of them. And I was like, that would make me think creatively. And then when I got older, I liked playing games like Fable. I liked like
Mm,
open world, holy cannoli, and like things like Oblivion,
yes.
Fable, Skyrim, Mass Effect. I really like stuff like that. My favorite game though is probably Neverwinter Nights 2.
Oh,
And just
yes.
things like that. You know, I don't game a lot anymore, but I used to game a lot, and I think a lot of those types of games do have a lot of like storytelling and world
Well,
building within
yeah,
them.
and gaming has changed so much. I mean, like
Right.
high speed internet has changed everything, right? It's
Right.
the cool reason why we're able to have this conversation, but it's also allowed companies to like monetize incentives that you would earn in games, and with that came this culture of like recycling, respawning, and
Yeah.
creating a death loop so that people want to spend more time and
Yeah.
spend more money. Yes, I loved Fable. I think Fable was one of the first games that you could be queer in. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have a husband in one city and a wife in a different city.
Right.
Um, so whatever, but yeah, it was definitely out there. And you're right that like I think when you're looking at those older open world RPG stories, there was a
Mhm.
lot of world building and a lot of what you're talking about, which is like the story's there if you want to read, or even more is there if you want to read. Like you pick up an
Yep.
item and you read every page of that book.
Yes. And I would because I thought it was so
Mhm.
neat. Yeah.
Yeah, Oblivion can become a very long game if you do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, that's awesome. Any TV shows or movies?
Um,
Well, you said Edward Scissorhands, right?
I love
So,
Edward
yeah.
Scissorhands. Yeah, I'm very that's probably I that's one of my comfort movies. So I Edward Scissorhands, but none these probably aren't on the fantasy side, but as far as just like movies that I'll watch literally every day, I'd watch Ammonite every day, I'd watch Debs
Mm.
every day, and I would watch Edward Scissorhands every day.
Debs. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Debs is
just,
hilarious.
yes, we
Perfect.
just recently rewatched and did a talk on Debs. I remember like hating, I was in college when it came out, and I remember being like, this is like first of all, I was probably burnt out on the spy parody genre because ugh, Austin
Right.
Powers, right? But
Right.
yeah, I mean, watching it again as an adult, I was like, oh, like I get it. Like it knows how ridiculous it is. Like it
Right.
never pretends to be a serious movie.
Right.
Um
Right. It's a spoof. It's a spoof, right? Like the whole time, like
yeah.
that. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And I think that, yeah, I mean, that's a good like example of like how you can just have fun too. Like you don't have to
Yes.
take yourself seriously. And you can still tell, you can be having fun and still tell a story and have a message, right? Like
Right.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, Wow, you said a lot. So Warhammer, yeah, I haven't played Warhammer myself. I do have lots of friends that get really deep into Warhammer. So I do see that you could make up background stories for um, all of those characters. Oh, Star Wars, that was it. So you read Star Wars, the what they now call the expanded universe, before it was decanonized and pushed aside into its own little bubble, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. Hmm.
Yes. Amazing world building. I mean, that's a great example of like people. It's almost like a well, it is. It's a sanctioned fan fiction, basically. Like it's people who enjoyed writing in that world,
Right.
and then like they got the licenses from Lucas and wrote books and wrote many of them, and the story that they tell is still, they're still the skeleton of the Star Wars films, but it's a lot deeper. And even with erasing most of that, like you still see that in the books that are new, that there is like the skeletal frame of the rules of the universe, right, that still
Right.
exist. And I think that's really interesting. Like, like how does magic, the force, function, like, and how you
Right.
craft not just the physical elements and the history and the literal laws, but how magic moves in your world has always fascinated me because it's so different. Um,
Well, thank
yeah.
you. I really think that um I really think a lot of playing games, watching Star Wars, and doing all that with my dad, I think a lot of that molded how I think about the fantasy genre and sci-fi genre in general. And I
Mm-hmm.
do, like, I'll write a serious story, and you were talking about having fun. I'll write even in my fantasy novels, I just cannot have I have to have at least one silly character.
Yeah.
In every book, like there has to be
Mm-hmm.
someone who's just a silly goose. Like I can't not. And yeah, and I would say my other, I'm big into the fantasy, but my other writing style is, more kind of in the vein of like a Debs or like a, like a what was I saying? Or like a Sharknado, like kind of more that vibe. Like my Screwed You Emily Tompkins is, it's a rom-com, but it's a rom-com with time traveling aliens,
Yeah.
and things
High,
like that.
high, like camp. Like, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Mm-hmm.
yes. Yeah, so I have those two styles, and honestly, what I kind of learned, the only way for me to finish a project, honestly, is if I am working on multiple at the same time, and so that I don't force myself to write in a mood I'm not in. Like sometimes I'm in a very like high fantasy mood, world building mood, and sometimes I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a like I just want to write something kind of out there mood, and then whatever I'm feeling is which one I work on because I have another. I originally wrote it as a book. I was writing something called Pumpkinheads, which is I essentially there was this demon named Daddy Spice that tricks somebody into taking this like orange shot and they become a pumpkin headed zombie and they like wreak havoc in this like club and then in this like frat house and stuff and they have to go to
I
underworld.
I love that.
Yeah. But I've started turning it into like a screenplay and I want to learn how to do like stop motion animation. So I
Mm,
think it's just going to be like a 5 to 10 year project where I make it into my own like goofy
yeah,
horror movie. So
that's awesome. Yeah, stop animation takes a lot of time for sure.
tedious.
So, yeah, more power to you. But it is, I mean, theoretically, it's something you could do on your own without, as much funds as it would take to do like a full scale horror movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm just gonna do it slowly over time, I think. We'll see. I mean, I'm gonna have to teach myself. I don't know how to do it, but I figure, I can learn. Why not?
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, I don't know, Sheridan. I just wanted to chat with you and give you a place to hype up your book. Who's your favorite character in your book? I'm just kidding. You can't have a favorite character in your own book, or unless you do, you
I
can.
do. Yeah, I have a favorite character for sure. My favorite character is for sure my silly goose character, River.
Mm, yeah.
River the pacifist is my favorite character because they're just kind of they're just like one of those characters that ends up in, wrong place, wrong time. And they
Mm-hmm.
could have totally chosen to just be like, yeah, screw this. This has nothing to do with me. But then they decide to be a part of it in the way
Yeah.
that still stays true to themselves. And I really like that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. Well, with any high fantasy, but with yours too. You connect the queerness of it not just to their actual sexuality, but also just to like a chosen family, right? Like as you're going on this adventure, they're like picking up people that are gonna become part of their band of heroes. And I think that always kind of makes something innately queer. Like I don't want to be like Lord of the Rings is queer because it's a bunch of guys going on an adventure, but
Feels queer.
there's something innately queer about how deeply they care for each other, and why some of the motives to go, like, to go on the journey in the first place, especially when you take out the age gap between Frodo and Sam that exists in the books. It's
Right.
like, okay, they're very close.
Right. Right.
um yeah, so that's fun. I have to ask because I feel like I have to ask everybody that I talk about fantasy with.
Mhm.
Harry Potter, were you ever a fan?
I was, when I was a kid, I was, as a child, you don't, that was one of the first chapter books, like without pictures that I was able to read. And I think I
Yeah.
just like connected with it so much, as a child. It's very disappointing to kind of see,
Well, right.
it's
And
almost bizarre because it was like written in such a way that felt like, like don't mistreat muggles or don't mistreat people that are on the margins and,
mm-hmm.
for that particular author to take the route they've taken, now that I'm an adult
Yeah.
looking in, it's almost bizarre because it felt like it would have been written by somebody who is like, very open to like supporting like marginalized communities, and it's quite the opposite, which is unfortunate. But no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say as a child that I wasn't a fan of Harry Potter. I absolutely was.
Yeah. I think too, like what you said about reading, I think Harry Potter is one of those stories, unfortunately, that maybe it was because of the writer's skill and how that writer progressed with writing, but the stories age with you as a reader. If you start
Oh
at book
yeah.
one, the reading level is lower than by the time you're like in, six and seven, they're, significantly higher reading levels. And I don't think there are a whole lot of series that naturally progress that same way. And I think there's a lot of power to not really knowing if your stuff is going to get published when you're, writing it, because you kind of get to create some things that you're like, well, maybe this will never go anywhere, but this is what I
Right.
want to create.
Right.
So I think there's a lot we can learn from the Harry Potter experience and how we
Right.
were all captivated, and some of it's good and some of it's, not so good, because
Right.
I feel like a lot of my heroes that I like, people that I liked, I mean, oh, I'm gonna name drop this one, Neil Gaiman's stuff, dark stuff, fantasy, and he's a horrible human. Like, how many people wound up being horrible human beings that I
Yeah.
once
I
that I
know
once
it's
worshipped?
unfortunate. You're like, man, I really actually like this, content, but I'm going to not consume that, to
Yeah,
not support you any further. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's it's a weird time. And then you're like, like, I don't know how many like people just get canceled for nothing too, right? So I'm like, one day
Right.
somebody's gonna listen to my podcast and be like, she was mean to this random person.
Right.
And
That's actually, yeah, that's actually, I talk about that sometimes with my wife where like, we're from Texas and, like, and other people are from other places, and like something that may be like not meant to be offensive here is offensive there. And so you have to, like
mm-hmm.
there's nuance in the things that you say and you do. And I do notice too, like, someone will take a picture of this, but then when you see the full thing, it doesn't, like, it's so out of context. And,
Yes.
I've noticed too, like, and I have this big anxiety. I talk to my wife about it all the time. I'm like, oh man, like in this day and age, it's like if you write anything grammatically correct, everyone's like, oh, AI wrote that. And I'm like, well, that's so
Oh
offensive.
no.
I'm like, I literally write because I love to write, not because I want AI to write for me. Like that would defeat the whole
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Like literally the whole purpose.
Absolutely. Yes.
And my wife, she's taking classes. She's getting her master's right now, and like we went to college to get our bachelor's like before the rise of AI, right? So like our
Yes.
our
Mm-hmm.
natural instinct, we still had to go to the library if we had to type a paper to print it out there. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
different like
Yes.
like there wasn't a printer or and things like that in my room. Like we
My,
had to
yeah,
go to the
my dorm had
library.
a computer lab. Like, I love
Yeah.
telling people that. Like, there was a place where all, like, there were
Right.
like a room full of 26 computers. I had
Yeah.
like a laptop, but it wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi very well. So I could like, and it was
Right.
like thick, and I could take it to like classes and take notes, but
Right.
I could never like the idea of like there are kids in classes that are also like on class and also
Yeah.
like on five other apps on their
Is wild. That's a
laptop is like,
wild. I didn't even have
whoa.
a smartphone in college. I was still rocking a flip because I was like, and smartphones and all that kind of started like
Mm-hmm.
getting popular when I was in college, but I was broke. So like I didn't have one. I was still like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so
Yeah.
we were kind of before that time. And she wrote one of her papers, and I don't actually understand how this works, but they put it through some AI thing. And the professor was telling her, oh, well, this is like this percentage of AI. And she was like, what are you talking about? Like, I typed this in Microsoft Word and then turned it in. And so my wife had to go and Google what flags AI. And then she was like, I essentially just had to dumb down all my papers so that it wouldn't get
Oh,
flagged. Like I had to go and make my grammar sound worse because it was like transition words were popping up. So and everyone I noticed, it's like no
Uh,
one can do anything without being like, I don't know. And I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like if you're doing art and you tell me it's not AI, I'm going to take you at face value because at the
mhm.
end of the day, what am I going to get out of telling you this or that? And I understand some people are dishonest, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It's
No,
just
I had somebody message me in like my direct messages on Instagram and was like, why are you using AI to create your icons on Spotify? And I was like, I'm not. So I like
yeah,
took a picture of the latest episode of like that we had created on Canva and like I like screenshot it and like that's what I released with
right.
the current
Like this
episode
is
because I
it.
was like, look, I did it. It's there.
Right.
But then, AI is embedded in so many apps too, like with
Yeah.
Canva, for example, that does a lot of things. And I'm like, wait, what did that? Was that AI or was
Or
that
was it
just,
me? Yeah.
yeah.
No, Canva's tough because I use like I don't have like a visual like as far as like I'm not good at drawing and things like that. And I'll use Canva on my posts like if it's like
Hmm.
a slide post, like they're built-in templates. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
think that's AI, but honestly, I
It,
don't think it is like because some
right.
of it just looks like stock images and then it has like
Right.
like the photo frames and that's normally the ones that I use. If it seems like it probably is, I just don't use that one. But
Right.
yeah, no, I
Well, and
don't
they,
do
right. And so, like, AI is a tool, and there's like a fine line between any technology of like what can be used and it still being like I have friends that have disabilities and like the ability to like have something to pull up a document and have AI like highlight all of the words that you need and like
right,
make them bold. That's really cool. Like that's awesome.
right,
And Canva, if they're using AI to generate frames off of other frames that they already have, like who cares, right? Like it's when AI is using people's faces or people's artwork or people's
right,
words and then generating its own words and faces that it gets really
right,
scary, right? Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can honestly say I have never like what's the big ones like chat some I've never downloaded the chat one. I've never done that.
mm-hmm.
I'm still very old school. Like I literally I had an iPhone, out of college for a little while and then I had the same one for forever and it broke and I told my wife and this is in like 2024. I told my wife I was like I'm just over it with all that and I went back to having a flip phone for a while and then like
Nice.
people were like how did you get around and I was like I just remembered where things were and I had one of those like Garmin old school GPSs in my car and I rocked with
Nice.
that for like a little while and then I got in a car wreck like a
Mm,
year after that and I needed to like look up a phone number to call and I was like my flip phone wasn't doing it and I was
yeah.
like all right I'm gonna go back to where I can like Google something if I need to.
Yeah, does 411 still exist? Like can you call a directory and ask somebody for a
I you
number?
know
I don't they probably
I don't think
don't,
so.
right?
I was
Yeah.
just kind of like I was just kind of out of luck there for a little while. So I was like,
Yeah.
because I was like, this isn't a 911 emergency, but this is like a I need someone local to come like help me out, kind of thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I need a phone that has Google again. So I and it was kind of fate. I came home from my son's baseball practice last night because it was on its last leg and it fell out of my pocket and my flip phone literally cracked and like broke
Oh.
itself in half. And I was like, man, this is a Nokia. These things used to last like
Yeah.
15 years, but so now I'm back to having an iPhone again, which
Mm.
I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it. And, just I didn't have a TikTok until like October of 2025 because that's when I realized, oh, that's like the only way people are gonna see my
Yeah.
content and know about my books. And so that's been a massive. I actually the first time I opened TikTok, I literally closed it in under like 30 seconds because it was so overwhelming to me. I was like, I
Yes.
told my wife, I was like, Veronica, why is there so many like things jumping at me? Every time I
Yeah.
open it, it's like it was like so overwhelming for my brain. But I've gotten to where it doesn't stress me out anymore, and I've gotten better at being a
Mm.
TikToker ish. It
Yeah.
still needs help. It needs if I ever made money off books, I think I would have somebody like help me with that side of stuff because
Just like a
it's hard.
personal assistant for social media. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that there are people who that is like their job, I'm sure, for
And they're
sure.
great at it. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
I'm doing my best though. I'm trying to make engaging content, but I feel like it's like very obvious. It's just like a millennial like doing her best.
Yeah, I
So
have no idea. I mean, I've been on TikTok for about a year as a creator, or and I think, I mean, yeah, you can relate to this too. It's like people love the short form content and the clips
yeah,
from my podcast, but go listen to the whole podcast.
right,
Just like
right,
you're like, go read the book. It's a good
right.
book.
Yeah, please.
Oh man. Um yeah. Well, this has been a fun chat. I know you're on your lunch break, so I don't want to keep you forever, but I thank you for chatting with us at Gay 2K, and I have read a couple chapters of the arc
Oh, well,
that
thank
you're
you.
I enjoy it. I just so I don't have we have a young child, a 5 year old,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, I just haven't had a whole lot of time. And when I read, when I have time, it's in bed. So you know how that goes. I fall
Oh
asleep.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old. I understand. I remember the 5-year-old days. They that's still pretty little. They still need
mm.
a lot of
Well, and like whatever I'm into, if she's home, she's like, "What are
in
you
it too.
doing?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no alone time. I totally
Yeah.
get it.
All right. Well, yeah, it was great to chat with you, and
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be here and for talking to me. I appreciate it.
absolutely. I'll let you know when, probably in like 2 or 3 weeks, I'll have this ready to go. So I'll let you know when it's gonna drop.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I'll let you go.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.